Well, I think historically what we found during the pandemic especially was that you had a lot of people reassess their life as far as work-life balance, being home, flexibility, all those things. And real estate became a really easy way to start a business.
Welcome to Real Investing for the Everyday Investor. I'm Ryan Harper. With me, Tim Harridge. And our guest today is Frances Cruz. And on this conversation, Frances is a regional director, something with a brokerage, Regional 21 Century. She knows a lot about real estate, been doing it for like 15, 20 million years.
Sounds about right.
Is that a great bio?
It's perfect.
15, 20 million years in 21 century, not century 21.
Correct.
Isn't that the same thing?
No.
Is that two different companies, or am I just flip-flopping it?
It's two different companies.
You and I should really, not 21st century Fox,
yeah.
Century 21 real estate.
Oh, this isn't a production video thing?
No, not at all.
You can leave now?
Yeah.
There went my back in
that's
play.
your background, right? So then that's where your context is coming from.
I don't even know
So
anymore.
can I jump straight in?
Sure.
Hot topic, buyer's agent commission.
Yeah.
It is completely illegal now to pay your buyer's agent.
Incorrect.
Okay.
100% incorrect.
Why don't we just take a minute? There was a big class action lawsuit, which is super cool now. I don't know if you saw.
Yeah.
One of the plaintiffs actually has now launched a flat fee real estate fintech company. So they used the lawsuit to get rid of their competition, and now they're in the game. But
that's usually what starts these things, right? It's
right.
Interesting.
Big settlement. National Association of Realtors agreed to make some changes. Mm-hmm. Could you give us like the real information behind that and how it affects the actual marketplace?
Yeah, so the way that what it all came down to at the end of the day, in my opinion, is it's a perspective of disclosure. Agents got in trouble because they didn't properly disclose agency and commissions. And so oftentimes you would find agents say, oh, don't worry, the seller pays for my commission, right? That's not how that works. The buyer has always paid for the seller's commission. It was built into the way the deal was structured. And so oftentimes commissions were seen as a marketing incentive for the sale of the home. That if I provide an incentive to the agent, they'll bring in more buyers. Same concept that builders do, right? Builders offer marketing incentives to agents. It's built in the same way that you pay for professional photographs and the way that you would offer a carpet allowance. If the buyer's agency commission was not paid for as an incentive from the seller, then the buyer would have to pay for that commission out of pocket. And then depending on the affluence of that buyer, that either makes or breaks the deal, right? If it's a first-time home buyer, oftentimes they're cash strapped. And so they don't have the funds to afford to also pay for their commission of their agent. And so having an incentive coming from a listing agent was a benefit because it allowed the buyer to come in with very little cash out of pocket. And so it was kind of, historically, it's always been built in. The NAR settlement really is tied to how we advertise and communicate commissions. And so the way that the legislation it's not legislation, it's just right. The way that the settlement has come in through the National Association of Realtors is basically saying that you can't advertise your commissions on the MLS or any third-party platform within the MLS to allow for kind of fair competition and no price fixing in commissions. And so they've always been negotiable. I've paid all kinds of ranges of commissions throughout my 20-something years in the business. And so now I just have to be able to talk to my consumer and say, okay, I don't know if there is a marketing incentive necessarily on this commission for this particular property. When I write my offer, I'm going to first, just like it's always said in my representation agreement in Texas, I'm going to first ask the listing agent and see if they'll cost share with me on my commissions. If they don't, I'm going to go and ask the seller for that through the structure of the offer. And if they still won't agree, then at that point, any difference that I'm not able to negotiate within the structure of the deal will come from our separate agreement between you and I in closing.
So one thing that in my limited exposure to realtors or that agency side of the world from the investment side, I look at it and it just makes me laugh, the whole situation. Yeah. Because from my perspective, and again, through the investor
lens,
of an investor. Through the lens of an investor world, My interactions with realtors, are they the laziest? Some of the laziest, most have no clue what they're doing.
Aw.
And as investors, we have to teach them how to do their job, and they're just there to get their check. So when the status quo has been the same, and you can jump in or rip me apart, has been the same for so many years, and then all of a sudden they get slapped on the wrist, to me it's like, oh, y'all got greedy and got caught.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that throughout your experiences, you've worked with really bad agents.
Tim and I used to work together 10 something years ago, and there was a woman, and we don't need to drop her name.
Yeah.
The ongoing joke was, once we got a signed contract, she was already at the casino before the check cleared.
Oh.
Remember that?
Yeah.
DM, baby. DM.
But that was the ongoing joke, because she was just like, I got this house. I know I'm not going to put it on MLS. Here, y'all buy it. Before the ink is dry, she's already up at Choctaw.
Well, and I think, number one, I do appreciate that explanation. Number two, the settlement makes it out like the National Association of Realtors was the frickin' Teamsters and
Yeah.
John Gotti and organized crime, price fixing.
Where are the bodies?
But the other thing is that I find comical is they say that it will help lower the cost of housing for buyers. But I don't know of a single seller out there that is like, great, I don't have to pay the 3% to the buyer anymore. I'll lower the price by 3%. All it's done is actually increase the cost of housing, in my opinion. And when you look at today is September 11th, and the new inflation print came out today. I know this won't air until October, but inflation was trending down except for one category, housing.
Yeah.
Housing is the only thing that made it go back up. And now that rates are dropping and the cost of the transaction have gone up for the buyer, you're going to see now the buyer says, well, I need you to pay my agent 3%. And what do we always say as a seller when someone asks us to pay something?
No.
Or add it onto the price.
Yeah, give me something
Yep,
else.
add it onto the price. So what
You
you're
can
gonna
have this, but I need this.
Yeah, so it's just another thing that I feel like the unintended consequences will actually be worse for the people they claim they were trying to protect. And that's why one of the claimants actually has already launched a fintech company to sell flat fee real estate.
So to your point, Tim, in my opinion, I think your affluent buyer, this is not going to impact them in any way. All it's going to do is just change the way they structure their deals. But for your first-time home buyer, your buyer that has FHA because they only have a fixed income, certain amount of money saved, they're the ones that are either going to have to decide to go without representation in a transaction, or have to come up with money they don't have.
Well, let's stick there because my wife's a broker.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was a broker. My wife's mom was a broker. I mean, like, my mom's a broker. Like, I got a lot of agents in the family.
Yeah.
So they're not all dumb, like Ryan said.
I never said anybody in your family was dumb. I don't
He
need
just
Jennifer
had-
hunting me down.
He had an unfortunate streak of bad agents. That's all
But
that
what's
is.
going to happen, what will happen out of this is something you just said. More people specifically, and this is where I talk about unintended consequences, the non-affluent and maybe less educated will go without representation. And when they go without representation, it means no one's telling them how to helping them handle inspection reports. No one's helping them understand the different financing opportunities or grants that are out there. You know, people don't understand real estate agents are actually fiduciaries. Their entire mandate is to protect your financial interest when you're their client. And so when you have what I believe will end up being a large part of the population getting flat fee people where they pay them $100. I even saw one, like, you can buy a package of showings, 5 showings for $500. Well, now if you don't, and then if you want help drafting the contract, it's $150 or whatever, and it's all like paid up front with a credit card. That seems like a great idea. But the less fortunate will be the less represented. The way this is all shaken out, should be shake.
Sure.
Yeah.
But to answer that, or to address that, and to tack on to, like, when you do have an affluent buyer, that commission check is going to be so much higher than, I almost said the $100,000, $200,000 house, but we haven't seen those in like 20 years.
Yeah.
But like the lower
You have some
end,
lots.
What's that?
Yeah, some lots.
I was thinking the
Right.
same thing.
But my
Lots.
point being is like the first time home buyer who would be most affected by this, they're going to be going into a house where that commission check is so low that they are going to have those types of realtors that are just like, yeah, the box is signed there, and they're not necessarily, I'm not saying everybody, potentially may not have as much skin in the game to actually do their job to the level of that you're talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, well, if you think about it, the FHA required down payment's 3.5%. And we're talking about, commission to a buyer's agent historically has been almost the same. And if I'm coming in making an offer as a first-time home buyer, if I was helping my son draft an offer, which I wouldn't because I'm not a realtor. If my wife was helping our son draft an offer, don't need track coming after me. We'll talk about that later.
This is not financial advice.
You would
no
look
one's an
at
attorney.
you would
in the
look at the
hot
market
seat.
analysis. You would see what you thought it would appraise for, and then say they had the 3.5% down. Well, then I would look at, can we try to ask for closing costs? Can we try to ask for home warranties? Can we try to ask for a new roof? But now I've got to ask for a commission as well. Like it's just another ask that I feel like takes away from what the buyer was able to be. And you can't always just add it on because appraisals aren't coming in where they're supposed to be now.
Correct. And so I think that's where it goes back to those buyers are the ones that are really going to be at risk because they have a separate agreement with their agent on compensation. So then you put the agent in the tough position of saying, okay, how much is my time really worth? And do I put myself over the need of the transaction from my consumer? And historically, our commissions have never been part of the transaction. We've been able to, we don't negotiate our commissions historically within the transaction. And these changes have created it so now Texas Realtors, we have specific addendums that are now part of the transaction where we have to disclose where and who and how our commissions are being paid if we're trying to structure it as part of the deal. And it does, I think, put the consumer at a disadvantage.
I agree.
And just to backtrack a little bit, just to clarify,
All right.
my experience is basically because you can imagine as investors, we're buying like $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 houses. So therefore, you're not going to expect a realtor to give that much effort.
Well, I think on the contrary, I think you picked the wrong realtor. There's a lot of realtors that I know that earn their full commission and their bread and butter is working with investors, but they're not looking at one deal. I'm working with this investor for the next 10 years,
Right.
and I'm looking at 20 transactions that I'm looking to do with them, and I'm managing their entire portfolio, and I'm giving them 5-year returns on their investments with forecasting on whether they should buy and hold or be able to create rental income here,
Right.
or when is our strategy for dumping, right? So I just think you chose a realtor whose niche was not investing, and you needed some help there on coaching on getting the right agent.
Well, also, I think you're
You
looking.
needed coaching.
I know.
Bless you.
I think you're, but that
Sorry.
is more of what I'm hearing you. That's more of like a concierge, which would be awesome. What I was
But
referring
that's
to,
what realtors do.
what we would use is just like give me the house because we know more than you. Maybe it's our own arrogance. And now I'm
there
looping
we
Tim
go.
into this conversation.
So
I need a
this
teammate, bro.
goes back to choosing the wrong agent,
Right.
right? We all have different specialties, and we are not all made the same.
Well, now let me get real about investors since this
Yeah.
is real investing. They do one deal and all of a sudden they're the expert. And
There you go.
so
Damn straight.
we tend to go look for the agent that we can boss around. Like it is what it is. I want to switch topics
Sure.
though.
Sorry.
No. This was great. It's very time's appropriate, sensitive,
yeah.
relevant. I don't know. Words aren't my thing.
It's in time. It's today.
You're with Century 21 Judge Fight,
yes.
and you manage 7 offices?
Yes, I'm the North District Sales Manager for Century 21 Judge Fight.
So I remember in 2019, 2020, maybe 21, I can't remember the year, but I remember the time, that I have a lot of nieces and nephews in their 20s, and it seemed like all their friends were getting their real estate license
Yeah.
and becoming a realtor. And I just remember thinking, that's not going to end well. And like the list of active realtors
Went
doubled or tripled in a couple of years.
Especially during the pandemic,
Right.
when everyone wanted to stay at home.
And then now it's like someone pulled the rug out from underneath their feet and it's dropping like a rock.
They found out it was hard.
Well,
There
they
you
found
go.
out it was hard, but you have a lot of retirements. And then, in essence, I think we're on pace and like to have an annualized sale number of like 4 million homes nationwide this year. Pending home sales as a percent, like per capita, just hit an all-time low last month. I would like to know, what are you seeing trend-wise on what realtors are sticking in it, which ones are leaving, and maybe kind of what that competitive land, because we did some research. About 80% of investors also have a real estate license. They may not practice as a third-party realtor, but they hang their hat somewhere.
Correct.
So what are you seeing trend-wise from the workforce as agents?
Well, I think historically what we found during the pandemic especially was that you had a lot of people reassess their life as far as work-life balance, being home, flexibility, all those things. And real estate became a really easy way to start a business. It is one of the lowest cost to entry businesses that you can do as an entrepreneur. You also saw during that time a ton of HGTV.
Well, let me pause, which makes no sense because like it makes no sense from the outside looking in terms of it's the lowest cost to entry. Because when you think houses cost $200,000, $300,000, $500,000, which is a lot, but compared to even running a media company and having employees and having this and that, you're like, oh my God, can I just go buy a house?
Yeah.
You know, like, anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to validate your thought.
Yeah, but the low cost to entry to the agent is low, but the brokerage carries it, right? So their need as an agent to be able to associate with a brokerage. Your bigger brokerages are usually really great for first-time agents because we do carry a lot of that cost. And so you're kind of doing a cost share model with the brokerage in the partnership of starting your business, where the broker carries kind of that heavy brunt of brand recognition getting you started. And so you can really start a business with a good partnership on a franchise model with very little cost other than your licensing.
And it comes with a baked-in mentor, someone that's going to work with you day in, day out, all day, every day. And then the other...
And is going to carry risk.
Well, I was going to say, the E&O insurance is immediate. So literally, you can start a brand new profession, and if you make a mistake, someone else is going to pay for it.
Right.
Well, also, like years ago, Tim started brokerage, and I was there.
And years ago, Tim shut it down.
But what my point is...
Not for everyone.
But compared to like starting a media company, it's like, what platform do I have? Do I use Dropbox? Do I use Google? Do I use this? Do I, there's so many decisions I have to make, and there's so many, because there's not that many playbooks. But when it comes to starting a brokerage or having realtors, it's like, hey, you can use this or this. It seems like there's a much more market specific, like, hey, everybody uses this. And I don't want to, I think I know what it is. I just don't want to say it because it might be something else and I don't want to look like an idiot.
Like top producer was one.
Top producer, and then there's like a back something.
Well, now you find
Back office.
There's a whole bunch of different ones. Like there's actually realtor services, right?
Right.
As a growing market, there's all kinds of new coaching programs.
Prop tech.
There you go. CRMs, et cetera. And so now really what you're finding is that brokerages within themselves are choosing their own systems of business operating systems that then are part of their value add that they sell to their agents.
But my overall point is there's industry standards of, hey, you need to get this and you need to get that.
Right.
Versus like the barrier to entry for what I do, it's like, figure it out.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting thing. When I want to grow my business, I have to hire, train, etc. When he wants to grow his business, he has to hire, train, etc.
And cry.
And cry. You guys recruit, right? Like it's. Could you maybe?
I hire, train as well.
Well, yeah, but not really.
I do.
No, you just said something. I wanted to get into that. You said the brokerage value add. I would like to know, imagine we're available real estate agents. What is the value add that you think makes
want my elevator pitch?
I would love your elevator
Okay.
pitch.
Give us recruit us.
At the camera, go.
All right. Well, Century 21 Judge Fight Company is an 80-year-old brand here in DFW. We are, I believe, the only family-owned brokerage in DFW with this kind of legacy. Century 21 is a 50-year-old company. And so you as a newer agent, you don't need a reputation. You can build your business off of mine. I provide you with your every tool system that you need under the sun. You can be as stock or as customized as you wish, with the full support of a large franchise that is here to help you build your business. Mentor programs, trainings, you've got custom one-on-one support throughout your time here with the brokerage. There are a ton of different brands out there. I hire to the culture and fit of my office and my company. If I decide that you and I aren't a good fit, then I'll let you know that and we'll figure out how to get you set up in that new location that'll work for you. But we don't hire everybody. We hire the ones that we think are going to learn and grow and be a good fit and contribute to our company.
Very good.
So I do hire, I don't recruit.
Fair enough. I was wrong.
Would you hire Tim?
I would.
No, you wouldn't. You fire too, right?
I fire Ted. I'd give you a chance and we'll see how it goes.
I mean, they're complaining about the coffee on day one. They're like, he's out of here. Where's my office?
Where's my corner office?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm on the 10th floor? No. I need to be on the 20th.
Well, most of us have home offices nowadays, and so you can have any kind of coffee you wish there.
So
who's going to give it to me, though? Who's delivering?
I like that
Yeah.
what you said, though, custom one-on-one support, because I think as I look at house buying, somebody the other day was like, who do you know that's ever sold a wholesale company? Because real estate wholesalers.
Right.
And not many people have.
Well, because they don't have a real business.
They don't have systems. They don't have, a regional manager. They have a call center where they yell at people.
Right.
So that's interesting because I think that one-on-one coaching and mentoring we talk about it all the time, like success leaves clues, right? Like follow who's done it right and save you talked about the advertising thing. The first thing people do is change your advertising. So, I mean, I find that interesting. What is like the life cycle of an agent? So like a new agent shows up, do like half of them quit in the first, I don't mean a Century 21.
No,
maybe,
just in general,
yeah.
industry knowledge.
It's almost like stereotypes. Like,
Yeah.
what are some real estate stereotypes?
Because we know all the pandemic people are like
Well, let's
back
go.
at McDonald's.
Let's go backwards to that, right?
or bottle service or
I
something.
think it depends on the entrepreneurial spirit of the individual. Like if they understand that they're their own boss and that they're only going to get what they put in, then that tends to be a person that's going to be successful in real estate. If they are, the first thing they're asking you is, how many leads are you going to give me? And I'm going to be working from home. I maybe or will see you. I've got another full-time job. I'm only doing this part-time. If they're thinking real estate is a part-time gig, they're not going to be successful because real estate's not part-time. No matter how much you say it is, we call it dual career because you're working 2 full-time jobs when you're selling real estate.
Yeah, like straight up.
Yeah.
You said something earlier about lifestyle or something.
Right.
Like if you enjoy your Fridays or your Sundays,
You're gonna not
you should
do
not
well.
be a real estate agent.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
because that's when people look at houses and that's when people negotiate. And even my wife is a broker, but she does not like working with the public. She likes working with her longtime clients that are friends and frankly just appreciate her knowledge and experience.
She's built a business by
Yeah.
referral over the years.
But still, like when we flip a house, I mean, we got one right now. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Like, it's a starter home in Mesquite, Texas. There may or may not have been some repair issues that the buyer had to get comfortable with. And the agent may or may not have had to move it to a different title company because her lender, it's some special program and our title company didn't understand it. But like yesterday, Jennifer and I are having lunch and I said, hey, is Hillview going to close next week? Because as a real estate investor, we are always real estate rich and cash poor. So like that business needs constant money from me.
right.
unless it doesn't, and then I take money back from it. But like, I was like, look, is Hillview going to close because it's scheduled for next week? Yeah, the 20th. And she goes, I don't know. And I go, what do you mean? She goes, look at this text from this agent. Jennifer, it was like Monday morning. She's like, just wanted to check in. How's everything going? Really proactive agent.
Right.
The lady writes back, good. And she's like,
There you go.
okay, good. She waits until Tuesday. She's like, hey, is there anything else other than good you can tell me? Are we through underwriting? Are we
Get the appraisal
through
come
processing?
in, right.
Are there any stipulations or conditions? Agent writes back right before our lunch, not that I know of. And you're just like, yeah, this thing ain't closing.
I'm giving you clues of maybe you should look into that.
Yeah, I mean, and so, but as an investor, like, I had to talk to Jennifer, my partner, at lunch yesterday, and I'm like, okay, well, we have that assignment that's closing next week. We're making like 20 grand on. So surely one of the two will close. And then we've got the flip on Robin that should go on the market next week, and that'll close next month. Let's have the accountant do the cash flow forecast. And I would rather know if we have to put money in now than later. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I'm lucky. I have a industry. Actually, Jennifer's been doing this longer than me.
Mm-hmm. And she speaks investor.
Right. And she understands. She also speaks bad agent.
Yeah.
Right. So like, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
So like, we're able to have that. And I think a lot of investors out there need to learn this. Like, we're able to have that conversation about 45 days from now today because we understand how to read the tea leaves. And I think a lot of times if they had a better agent, specifically on their flip transactions, it could really help them with their cash flow needs, forecasting, and planning.
So I find that sometimes the pain point when working with investors, so context for y'all, I don't think you knew this, like when I sold actively as an agent, my bread and butter were investors. And so I actively invest with investors, and I have a different perspective than most managers out there because I speak investor.
So you drank a lot too.
Yeah, you guys tend to do that to us. But the key really is the communication between the agent and the investor. I find that investors that keep things too close to the chest sometimes make the realtor's job really hard because you don't know what that other project is. You don't know how important is it that I hit this one day, or why are you dragging your feet on switching title? Like, can I just keep it here, right? And so sometimes it's because I have all my docs here, and this is where my my docs of incorporation are, and switching is going to just delay the process.
I'm lazy and unorganized. Is what they're trying to say.
And the only one who knows my life is this one escrow officer, right? So sometimes if that agent doesn't understand, hey, what is your true rate of return that you're trying to get at a minimum on investments? What are the things that make you sweat? What are the things that you feel uncomfortable with? Like, you can't find the right property for them if the agent doesn't ask the hard questions and the investor isn't open and honest with them.
Well, it's funny because, like, as I've gotten older, I think as Tim's gotten older, it's no longer about the lowest price.
Yeah.
And then, because there was a title company, and I'll try to be as vague as possible, that you walk in, you get the best price, always closes, but you walk into their office, it looks like a tornado hit. And, 15 years post that, you're going, maybe I don't want that in a title company. Maybe I want the most OCD, anal, like, super organized person, and maybe that's going to cost a premium, but that's probably better in the long run.
Well, I always laugh about it on Facebook when you see an investor.
And you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, kidding.
He just drops it.
She retired, so it doesn't matter.
Okay,
We're not
cool.
hurting her business.
Okay.
And I would still close with her in a heartbeat because I love the tornado. I am part of it. I was always part of the tornado.
They're like, I created the tornado.
Yeah.
Well, first thing investors do, they hop in the Facebook group, and you can always tell the newbies because they say, looking for an investor-friendly title company. Cheap, right? Like, and then the first thing they do is complain about the service. And it's like, man, you literally came into this situation saying, I don't want to pay for service. They ask for an investor-friendly realtor, and it's like, what does that mean?
Everything I was talking about.
Yeah.
Everything I was talking about is investor-friendly, right?
Investor
From the professional side.
All right.
You explain investor friendly, and then you explain investor friendly because it's two different things.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think one is more grown up than the other.
Yeah, investor friendly in my limited landscape. I'm prefacing hard.
We were young back then.
Yes, is
Wait.
cheap, quick, get out of the way,
Oh,
and bring me more.
okay.
And maybe even loan me your HUD key so I can go by myself.
What?
Do they even have
I've
HUD
never
keys
had a
anymore?
login to never mind.
Yeah. Give me your MLS login so I can
Mine?
search.
I would never.
No, but you
'cause I
know,
don't have
like
one
that's
'cause
what
I'm
they
an
want,
agent.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So what's investor friendly to you?
Investor friendly is someone who understands how you get paid, understands how you get money, right? Understands what a hard money loan even is, right? An investor friendly agent is one that can actually run a CMA both for your rental, both for your resale, both as your as repaired and repair model, that can actually understand which repairs will make you money and which ones won't, right? An investor-friendly agent is one that will go with you to 50 houses that are all torn down and tell you this one's the good one, this one isn't. The investor-friendly agent's the one that says it's okay if you work with the agent in Fort Worth because that's not my market. My market's Frisco. Take as many realtors as you need as long as you are honest and faithful with me in my market.
Now, and maybe this is just, again, the bias of what I've worked with.
Yeah.
I hear all that, and I'm like, do you want equity in the project?
No.
Or just that standard 3%?
It's just there is no standard 3%. It's just whatever my commission is.
Man,
according to
depending on the
NAR,
deal.
dude.
No, but
No,
to
I'm
be
just-
honest,
I'm joking.
when
We
I-
missed out.
You worked
We
with
could
the
have had
wrong
that
agent
the whole time.
The whole time. And so I often structured commissions based on the deal. So maybe there'd be one where
Maybe it is 20%.
that I'd have to give a little bit extra just to make the deal work. And my investors that I worked with always made me whole on the other end.
What's the highest you've ever been paid?
It depends on the deal. I've been structured in different ways, and it depends on the scope of work.
It's just like anything. Real estate agents are providing services for a fee.
Correct.
Whether it's buyer's agent commission, seller's agent commission, property management, leasing. As a real estate agent, there's different services you provide as a fiduciary, but as I'm going to say real estate professional, if you wanted to get involved in other areas of real estate, most brokers will not restrict that. Some may, and you just want to check with your broker.
Well, at the end of the day, depending on what you do or don't do, it's either part of your real estate activities that's associated with your relationship with your broker where the broker gets a split, or it's not, right? And so, for example, we have agents that do admin services, right? And they TC for other agents. And
Transaction coordinate.
Thank you. They do transaction coordination. Well, that transaction coordination isn't necessarily part of their traditional brokerage real estate activities. So it's separate, right? And so it just depends on what your scope of work. I would say if you are a realtor and you're looking at kind of expanding your book of services, contact your broker, find out what they're okay with and what they aren't. Like I had some agents that just did design work, and that's not part of what was part of their relationship with the brokerage, and had their own design business on the side. Right.
So earlier you were talking about that entrepreneur spirit and like, you know, the good agent versus the bad agent versus the agent that's probably not going to be an agent tomorrow.
Correct.
And, you know, it's interesting because you talk to people like, I'm going to be this, I want to do that. And when it comes to real estate specifically, when I hear that, I'm like, do you go to meetups? Do you watch YouTube videos? Are you being proactive to learn this craft? And they're like, no, not yet. And they're like, then you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a real estate person. And they look at me like I'm an asshole, but I'm just like, if you've wanted to do something, what's stopping you from pursuing that?
It's fear.
Yeah.
It's fear.
And I think
Fear of rejection.
specifically investors that have only been doing this for 4 or 5 years, I don't think they understand that the MLS, when used properly, is a good source.
By a realtor.
Yeah.
I didn't say that.
Or someone at a minimum who paid dues to the board.
Yeah, well,
Wink, wink,
Realtor.com, you don't have any. The whole point is if you know how to search and you know what you're looking for, there are good deals online or on the multiple listing service. And I still routinely buy from several agents that, you know, they walk through the house and they listen to seller's motivation and timeline, and they know it would be doing a disservice. I mean, I've literally had agents send me a house and say, look, don't pay me a commission, just take care of the customer, you'll get me on the next one. And, they always get the $25 gift card. No, I'm just But, look, good relationships, you said it earlier.
Yeah.
Good relationships and good relationship-minded people will always take care of those who feed them.
Well, and at the end of the day, if your realtor is only finding you a house, you have the wrong realtor.
So I think
Because
as an investor.
anyone.
Oh, yeah.
If my only job is to go online and look for the MLS and run a report and find you the houses I see on the MLS and say, here, good luck, I am grossly overpaid. My job and where I earn my money
just gonna
is in
clip
the
that.
contract to close process.
Right.
I do more than just find a house. I am not a search engine. You can find the house just as much as I
Right.
can, and that does not make my services to you less necessary for you in that transaction.
enough.
I think that's so huge. I do more. I'm not just a search engine.
I'm not.
Because I've never heard it said that succinctly. So that's
Well,
awesome.
Ron, I'll say it, in your world, you're not a camera guy.
No.
You do a whole lot more
Right.
than
Strategy.
record this
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Than to have you
help
hold
find-
my iPhone for me.
Yeah.
Well, right. You help find guests. You help with production, post-production, planning, coordination.
Yeah.
You help with strategy. You remind me when I didn't do things that I was supposed to do. You're not just a co-host. You're not just a video guy.
Right.
You are really my partner in this transaction that we call a show.
Right.
I know we're going to run out of time soon.
Oh,
but
sorry.
One thing you said earlier that I wanted to point out. God damn it.
Well, there's two things because I think a lot of this conversation has been revolving around, and I think that we should, unless you think of something better,
I'll remember.
that how if you were training a realtor to work with investors, and then also if you were training investors to work with realtors,
Yeah.
because I do think that relationship is sometimes so vague,
Yeah.
and it does take time, but it's like, okay, what education could you give to both parties that could just, make that a better relationship, but also more profitable for everybody, but make it a quicker situation?
Well, I think it's the open partnership. Again, how I mentioned before, that open dialogue from both sides is really important. I think the agent needs to understand that I'm not going to be the only agent you're working with, and that these are the places in the markets that I know, and that I got to get creative on helping you find properties. Like if I'm looking on the MLS 9 times out of 10, especially in this market, I'm not going to find you a property. So I got to be willing to put blood, sweat, and tears in finding opportunities for you, but then also keeping you from, as an investor, from the liabilities you create for yourself.
Good luck.
Right? So I need to save you from you in that process and learn how to communicate with you, right?
I'm still trying to find that. Somebody
Well,
save
but,
me
It's
myself.
okay.
But let me hit on that real quick because you talk about thinking outside the box as a real estate agent.
Right.
Last week we were in Phoenix with Investor Lift, which is the #1 platform for finding off-market property in the nation. Happy to announce Ternus Lending is now the official financing partner of Investor Lift. But it's funny, I sell my houses on there too, my off-market stuff, when we can only flip so many at a time. And the house we're closing next week that's an assignment, we sold on Investor Lift, but the person that called us was a real estate agent. And she was sharing with Shelby and Randy that she finds almost every house for her clients that she finds right now on Investor Lift. And the clients love her for it because she gets the thing, calls the wholesaler, runs the comps, because most wholesalers are full of it. And she kind of looks at the pictures and she's like, and then she knows which investor would like that area. She calls and says, hey, Ron, I got a house for you. You want to meet me over there today at 3? Right? So she's already arranged the showing and everything. And she has made the transaction super simple, ended up sending the loan to Ternus. So now I get to make 20 grand of signing the thing, and I get to make money on the loan, and I get a customer, and I get this realtor that I pay referral fees to. So, so hopefully she brings me more volume, and it's really it's a mutually beneficial partnership. But you talked earlier that your job as a real estate agent with investors was understanding their pain points
Yep.
and helping alleviate them. One of the things that the best realtors are doing right now in our industry is they're talking to these investor clients and they understand. So as investors, we typically write our contracts for some reason to close at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Well, why do we do that? Typically, it's because we've got a flip closing that week that we need that money to go put down on this house, or we want to wait for it to close so that we have the money in our bank account to qualify for the loan to buy the new house or whatever.
Can I say something real
Yeah.
quick? Don't close on a Friday. Please.
Especially like in September where the Friday is, anyway, in August, Friday was the last day of the month. It was just god awful. But one of the things agents, I see them doing now in the marketplace, and so I'm at RCN Capital, and we'll close, I think we had a record number of loans closed last month, and it's just astounding how many happen in the last 5 business days of the month, every month. And you can't change that, but a good real estate agent can help you investors do this by offering some incentives. The reason people like to close on the last day of the month, that's when leases expire. It changes their out-of-pocket at closing with the interest prorations and all that. You can offer some simple incentives, and it may make you, even if you have to give up a couple grand on the sale, it may make it where you don't have to fire sell this other house or rush this other assignment. So one of the things we do a lot of, and that's why Jennifer and I were having this conversation yesterday, which was the 10th of the month, was we try to intentionally have closings in the middle of the month because it alleviates the stress of the end of the month. If a deal does need to close, we've got plenty of money. I can show the bank account statement to the lender that, like Ternus, that's going to look at your bank account, make sure you can actually pay for the loan.
Yeah.
So you talked about that earlier. You said you need communication so that you can understand why that's a pain point so you can solve it.
Correct. And with investors, sometimes we find that they don't even know what their pain points are. So it's hard for them to tell you, right? And so a good agent that's investor friendly is able to coach those questions out of that investor, is able to kind of help them and coach them on how to start investing in real estate. Like, especially for your new investors, like I find that I've coached several into just starting the process because they didn't know where to start. All they knew is they got, a big bonus check, and somewhere my mom said I should get a rental house. And so then they buy one, not understanding that you probably don't want to buy that one because the HOA is high. You're only thinking about the mortgage, and you're actually net negative on your cash flow. And it's a condo in Dallas. It's never going to go that much more in price, right? And so really the agent that coaches that investor on, hey, let's talk about how are you taking title? Are you doing it in your name? Are you doing an LLC? This is why you should do an LLC, et cetera. Is the agent, I think, that works well with investors.
And I think that point, it's as a real estate investor type person, you are on an island most of the time.
You are.
And we were talking about this before about how, like in the real estate world, you don't really think about higher education, you don't think about chambers, you don't think about that. But we do have events, you do have masterminds. But I always tell people, don't pay for a mastermind or anything or education until you know the language. And it sounds like, because I'm very pro pay money to elevate you up, but if you don't know the baseline education or baseline language, you're just throwing money away because most of those time those guys are going to rip you off.
Yeah.
The pay to $50,000 to rich dad poor dad. Well, that was stupid. You would have been better off just buying a house and losing money because then you would have had
and learn as you go.
Yeah. But if you can connect with a realtor like what you're talking about that actually does that concierge service, that seems like the best way to go for somebody new in this business.
Translator.
What's that?
A translator.
Absolutely.
You said learn the language first.
Absolutely.
Or get a translator.
Well, that's my point. Is like how if. But I think it goes back to that living on an island is, and I hate to say you don't know what you don't know, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
And hopefully they watch this podcast and go, no, maybe I should reach out to Frances. Be like, hey,
send me
me one of your people.
And speaking
I'll
of
get
that,
you with somebody.
So tell me, since I'm an idiot, you got 7 offices, regional director of sales, you're involved in like the recruiting, the training. Tell me a little bit about like what you do real quick, and then if someone watches this and they think, man, I think that lady is just awesome, I'd like to connect, kind of the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my home office is in the Frisco office, and so I'm there Monday through Friday. I'm the regional sales manager there, so I lead a team of sales agents in the Frisco, Collin County, McKinney area. And then I also, my second job, I guess, within the context of my roles, is I'm a district sales manager. And so I manage managers who have their own sales teams and sales offices in our regional locations. And so there's several offices within there. Our brokerage, we are both in Texas and in Oklahoma. We've got over 25 offices. And so I also help with the leading of training and coaching agents throughout the brokerage.
Awesome.
So I do a lot. We wear a lot of hats at Judge Fight Company, and it's a great little place to be.
Well, I need to do like a webinar or something for your agents and teach them all about investor lending.
I would love it.
Because Ternus recently, we started out just in Texas with our own money. Well, we broker loans nationwide, but we just expanded into Oklahoma. So I'm really excited about Oklahoma. Lower property values, which means my money can go farther into more loans.
Do they have electricity up there yet?
Some parts.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the time. This was great. It was a good first podcast for me. So.
Yeah.
Well, you did fantastic.
For first one, that was
And
solid.
I don't think I looked at the camera.
And you
enough.
are welcome to come back next decade.
All right. You just tell me when, and I'll be here. This is actually a lot of fun. So
Well, thank you for being
thank you.
here.
I appreciate it.
I'm good. Ternus Lending. Hit us up for all your real estate financing needs.
If you need media, I can help you out. And if you need a investor-friendly realtor,
Call Frances Cruz of Century 21 Judge Fight, and I'll find you one.
hey, I don't know. Isn't that a social thing? Like
it goes back to the organized crime of the
nar,
realtors.
yeah.
You need some media? I got you.
Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next week.